Hello everyone, Chef Eric here and welcome back to the YouTube channel for yet another amazing recipe. And today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my delicious passion and white chocolate Swiss roll. So we're going to start by preheating our oven to about 180 degrees Celsius so it can get nice and hot. So you can put the cake in, it rises beautifully. So we're gonna grease a large baking tray. You could use the baking tray that's usually in the oven. Grease it with some margarine or some vegetable oil and line it in some parchment paper. Parchment paper is super easy to find and it's going to help the cake just slide out of the baking dish. Set that aside and we can start to divide our 7 eggs or separate them into the egg yolks and the egg whites. So you want to crack your egg into a really small container, or you can crack it in between your two hands and then gently toss it around back and forth until you separate the egg yolk and the egg white. Place the yolk into a separate bowl and add your egg white into the bowl of your stand mixer or your hand mixer, and repeat with all 7 eggs that we're using for this recipe. It does seem like quite a lot, but it's also going to help the cake rise and become nice and puffy. Add in a little bit of white vinegar to help it foam up and to really mix up together well. You could either use white vinegar, lemon juice, or apple cider vinegar. Don't use anything like balsamic or anything like that, or red wine. Start to whip it up, and when it starts to form bubbles at the top, you want to add in your sugar tablespoon at a time and add it and stream it in slowly. Don't just dump all your sugar in. If you dump all your sugar in, there's a chance it will end up collapsing, and it will give you a beautiful silky smooth meringue. It should be stiff but not too stiff, so just looks super nice and creamy and really nice. So once it's nice and whipped up, you want to turn down the speed a little bit and slowly add in your egg yolks one at a time until they're all fully incorporated. It will give the meringue a slightly yellow tint. So once that's done, we now want to sift over all of our dry ingredients. So here I have 1 cup of all-purpose flour, a teaspoon of baking powder. I'm just gonna gently sift that over and then fold it together with a whisk. We fold it together with a whisk to ensure that you don't lose a lot of the air bubbles that we have created to form the beautiful luscious batter. Once all the flour is fully incorporated, you want to add it into your large baking tray, and then you want to smooth that out all over the baking tray, either with a spatula or a spoon, just until it's nice and smooth. And then once it's nice and spread out, you want to tap it on your counter at least 2 to 3 times to release any trapped air bubbles, and bake at 180 degrees for about 15 to 20 minutes. Keep an eye on it, but do not open before the time is fully up. It should be done around the 15-minute mark. Gently loosen the cake while it's still warm. While it's still hot, like fresh out of the oven, loosen the cake. Get a large kitchen towel, dust over some powdered sugar to ensure the cake doesn't stick, and then pop over your cake gently and then remove your layer of parchment paper. Dust some more powdered sugar over the top of the cake, and you want to gently roll it up while the cake is still warm, just to form a beautiful like Swiss roll log. This is going to help it maintain its shape, so that when we are like filling it and decorating it later, it already knows the shape of the Swiss roll that's supposed to go into. Wrap it up nice and gently and pop it into the fridge while we work on our fillings. So the first filling we're going to work on is our passion puree, or like a passion filling of whatever. So you want to cut up around 7 to 8 passions, and then you want to add them into a small saucepan along with about 2 to 3 tablespoons of sugar. You add sugar depending on the sweetness of your passion, and for this recipe I suggest to use the red passions and not like the Mzungu passions, because they give you a nice level of tartness that is really nice and complements the white chocolate, which is very sweet. Add in your sugar, mix it together, and you can head on over to the stove. Now on a medium-low heat, you want to gently cook this passion puree down just until it starts to get nice and thick. It will take around 10 minutes just for it to get nice and thick. You don't want it very thick, and you don't need to add anything else to it, because most fruits contain a preservative called pectin that enables it to thicken when cooked down. So once it's nice and thick, you want to take it off the heat and add it into a small bowl, and you want to let it fully cool down while we work on the rest of our ingredients. So for this cake, since it's a sponge cake, we need to add some sort of syrup or a soaking to it to make it nice and moist. And for this cake I decided to go with a passion fruit simple syrup. Yeah, so we're gonna take some passions and blend them up in the small blender compartment just until they're nice and fine. When they're nice and fine, you want to sieve them to get the passion juice out. But if you can buy passion juice, it's a lot easier, it's a lot faster, but entirely up to you. Sieve out all the black seeds that have been crushed up inside the blender, and you want to add in an equal amount of sugar. So for this recipe, for simple syrup, you need to add equal amounts of liquid and sugar to make the simple syrup. So here I ended up getting around 40 grams of passion juice, so I added in 40 grams of sugar. Add the sugar in, give it a good mix, and pop it into the microwave for about a minute and a half, just until the sugar starts to fully dissolve. It might take a while, and you could do this on the stove, but it's entirely up to you. Whichever seems faster or easier, by all means go ahead and do so. Give it a good mix and let it fully cool, because it's really hot at this point. Now I can make our whipped cream filling. So I wanna add in some whipping cream into the large bowl of your stand mixer, and add in about 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and whip it up until you have some medium stiff peaks. Like, it's not stiff and it's not very soft either, like something you can easily apply, and it tastes it has a really nice texture to it. Take it off the stand mixer, and we can now start to fully assemble our Swiss roll, and it doesn't take too much time. So get your Swiss roll out of the fridge, sorry, and then you want to gently open it up and brush on your simple syrup. I suggest to use 3/4 of it, or most of it at least, but if you feel like you've over soaked it, don't overdo it. Just gently brush it over so it gives the cake a nice and moist texture. It's very important, otherwise the cake is gonna taste very dry and won't have the perfect creamy delicious mouthfeel that a Swiss roll is meant to have. So slap on your whipped cream that is nice and creamy, spread it over with an offset spatula or a spoon or whatever you have on hand, and then you want to gently pour over our passion fruit filling that we had made earlier, and you want to gently just mix that through with the whipped cream just until you form a nice sort of passion whipped cream type situation going on, and then that's done for the fillings. Then last but not least, just to bring in the white chocolate aspect of this, you're gonna take some bars of white chocolate and just grate them over your whipped cream and passion filling. You can add as much or as little as you'd like depending on your taste buds. So once that's topped off, you want to gently roll it up into a large log, and please do this as tightly as possible so that you have the cake and the cream fully mixed together. If you do it too loosely, it can end up unraveling back up in the fridge. So roll it up, cover it in the large tea towel that you've been using throughout, and then you're gonna pop it back into the fridge for about 20-30 minutes. So once it's nice and chilled, you're gonna place it onto a large cutting board, and you wanna chop off the edges on both sides. This is optional just for aesthetic purposes, but if you do not want to, well and good, but I highly suggest you do so. So chop it off, and then you want to top the cake with some whipped cream, some white chocolate, and some passion, and you're done. You can top it to the way you'd like, and please give this recipe a try, and if you do, kindly tag me over on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I'd love to see it. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week for yet another amazing recipe.